Welcome back to Clinical Communication. My name is Ben. I'm a specialist physio and clinical communication skills facilitator here in the UK. And today we'll be going through some lessons from this book called Messengers by Steve Martin and Joseph Marks, and how we can apply them to the patient or patients who come in to see us. We won't be going through the entire book today, just some highlights, but if you find it useful, I'll put a link to it in the description of this. If you find this resource useful, then please do subscribe. Follow me at BYBrowPhysio on whatever social media you're on, and let's dive in. The first and potentially most important lesson from this is that when we're communicating with someone, they're not just judging us on the words we say. In fact, they're placing greater weight on other factors, other things that they'll be deciding at the same time. For example, can we trust this person? Can we get on with this person? Are they like us? Are they an expert? Do they know what they're talking about? Do I trust the people or the service that they associate themselves with? Have I had experience with them in the past? These are all factors that will play a role. We're not going to go through all 8 sections of the book today, but just know that when you've got a patient in front of you, they're not just making decisions and judgments about you from the words you say. In fact, they're placing greater importance on those other factors as well. One of the main factors the book talks about is connectedness and respect. These aren't things that just occur suddenly. It takes time for relationships to form, for patients to trust us, feel that they can get on with us. But we know the more we can connect with someone, the more we can like and respect them, the more we're then likely to go along with what they've said, more likely to feel that they're acting in our best interests. But of course, this isn't guaranteed. Just because we like someone doesn't mean we're going to go along with what they've said. There'll be other factors at play as well. And one of those is around expertise. One of the areas that the book talks about is around expertise. We're more likely to go along and do something if the person suggesting it is perceived as an expert and we think they know what they're talking about. But how can we show that we're an expert? We can wear the uniform, we can use hopefully easy to understand lingo. There are many ways, but one of the ways the book discusses is around confidence. Okay, someone who's an expert will have some perceived confidence that they know what they're talking about, that they can help that person in front of them. Of course, you need to be competent to go with the confidence. If you're being over the top confident, being cocky, arrogant, it pushes people away. They get put off. And if you're really being confident and it comes apparent that you don't have the competence, then your trust and your relationship will fall away immediately. What they suggest is using subtle, calm confidence, appearing, that you can help, and you have the confidence to do so, but not over the top, not brash, arrogant, etc., because that again will push people away. And with that confidence, you can also show some uncertainty to help build in trust with your expertise. The book suggests that when we have an expert, but they show uncertainty in a situation or they're not sure, that actually helps build trust with the audience or the person that's listening to them because they're being humble. They're showing they don't know everything. They're not being brash and overconfident. Okay. So being clear with the patient in front of you that you may have some competence, but you're unsure, uncertain, will actually help build in more trust, give them a greater feeling that A, you know what you're talking about, but B, they can trust you too. This may be as simple as saying, I'm hopeful we can help. We've done it with people in the past, but I'd just like to organise XYZ tests first. Or we can't make a guarantee, the chance of helping you maybe 80% or whatever it is, though there are the risks, okay? Giving them the details, but showing them downsides as well as upsides, or just where you're uncertain, can help build that trust with your calm expertise. However, you probably have plenty of experiences where a patient can be sat in front of the expert, but they're not buying it. Something's going wrong. They're just not clicking. And that's where warmth and connectedness need to come into play as well. You could have the best knowledge, the best skills, but if you're trying to build some rapport and trust, if the words you're saying are not matching with your tone and mannerisms, that patient in front of you is going to detect that things aren't matching up, that things don't look right. And what the rapport and relationship you're trying to build is just going to dwindle. The often forgotten thing is that your tone, your mannerisms need to match what you are saying. For example, You may have done the best assessment in the world, but if you're trying to be empathetic, typing at your computer and going, this sounds like this has been really difficult, it doesn't add up. They're not matching, okay? You're saying the right words, but you're not showing with your mannerisms and your tone that you actually care. On the flip side, you can go over the top, okay? Forced empathy, forced warmth, where you're repeatedly using loads of empathetic statements, all over the top sympathy can be perceived negatively, okay? You need to show you care, but you also need to ask various other questions. You need to help them solve the problem, whatever it is as well. So yes, be empathetic, but don't go over the top all the time. What you're ideally looking for is some form of compassion with your empathy. You're trying to understand what that person's been through. And one way the authors suggest how you can demonstrate compassion is with an apology, even if it's not your fault. So the classic example I and you listening to this may have to do is saying, I'm sorry you've had to wait so long. I'm sorry you had this experience with these people in the past. Whatever it is, okay? The person in front of you knows it's not your fault, but the apology can help show some compassion towards them. It's not empathetic, but it's still useful, okay? Still showing that you care. If you are going to apologize, they do have some suggestions. It needs to be done quickly, not long after they've said it. Okay? It needs to be within the realm of them saying whatever the apology you feel is appropriate. It needs to come across sincerely that you actually care. Again, not using some robotic or over the top voice. And it needs to show some, if there is in your service, some commitment to change, what you may do differently next time. Feeling, sorry that this has happened. We'll do this differently next time. And compassion and connectedness is very useful, helping build your relationship, build that rapport, increase potentially that buy-in, that more likely to go along with what I was suggesting. There's an extra thing you can do that the book suggests, and becoming more light across his communication skills, is around vulnerability and showing the human side of you. Now, vulnerability, to be clear, does not mean sharing your life story and taking over the appointment. It's still about the person in front of you, right? And whatever you're going to suggest needs to be appropriate to the context and the situation. You don't need to say the same thing to every person in front of you. But giving them some information, knowing that they're not just being treated by the robot in front of them, will again help build that relationship, build greater connectedness, improve and increase the chance that the message you're giving will be received and taken on. And you've got options for what you share. It can be experiences you've had in the past, it can be thoughts you're having as you're going through their assessment with them, or feelings from what they've said, or other things, okay? If it's one person, we can relate to them a lot easier, okay? When we tell stories or things about groups of people, it's a lot harder for the person to relate to that. But you giving experience or your own individual feelings or thoughts makes it easier for that person in front of you to relate to you. And this can also help with the emotional side of buy-in, okay, and to helping them change beliefs perhaps or behavior. We need logical reasons, but we also need emotional reasons. And being vulnerable and sharing some of those emotions, thoughts, or feelings can help that emotional side. Maybe something we haven't really tapped into so far. We're very good at logic, but not so good at the emotional side. And that's really actually what leads to change. So if you can be appropriately vulnerable, okay, showing just you're a human, you're not going to take over that appointment. It's still about them, but just giving some information back can help build that connectedness, help build that trust, help show that you care. As I said earlier, if you found what I've discussed today useful and helpful, then the book is available online. I will put the link in the description. If you want to share this with others, please do. If you think they'll find it useful, please give me any feedback you think would make this better. Guests to suggest, I'm getting guests now for interviews, like Jack March last week. And thank you for listening or watching, and I will speak to you next time.